Well, I've never bought a house or been present at the sale of a house, so
Sure.
I'm not well versed in the upcoming topics.
And the verbiage, right?
Yeah, but could you please explain what a closing table is? We'll start with that.
Okay, so the closing table is going to be the final step of purchasing real estate. It's going to be the last thing that's done. So that's way at the end. So I'm going to start from the beginning first. So
Okay.
the first step, obviously, is obtaining the pre approval letter, which tells you what you can afford and what the lender is willing to lend to you. Then it's writing the offer and getting acceptance. Acceptance is when all parties sign and agree to that contract. So if you offer to buy that house at $240,000 and the seller accepted and signed, that document would become a legal contract to sell that home. Oftentimes, you'll see a little bit of back and forth before you get to an acceptance. So we might write an offer together, Hunter, and they might not necessarily like the price or certain contingencies. Contingencies are like home inspections or appraisals or testing. So those are all things that must be satisfied to the buyer's liking before the transaction can proceed. So oftentimes in a counter argument, it's not always about money, but it might be about contingencies. They're looking in a specific market like the market today. They might be looking for the least amount of contingencies as possible because then it's more guaranteed that that sale is going to go through. So you've got your pre-approval, you've got your offer. You might have to counter back and forth a little bit to really agree. Once everybody signs, that's acceptance. And then from there to closing, which is usually a 30-day window, all of these contingencies must be satisfied. So you might have a home inspection. Well, then you get a home inspector. He comes and does a home inspection, and he's looking for not only minor details, but major details. Is there mold? Does the roof need to be replaced? Is there water damage that wasn't seen when we went through the house in the showing? So that's meant to protect the buyers from buying something that they weren't aware of, and inheriting a problem that should be fixed by the owner. So to elaborate, typically the owner or the seller of the real estate is responsible for the maintenance of the property. So certain things aren't included, like if they painted a room bad and you can see two different colors. Like that's not going to ruin a transaction,
Yeah.
but hiding the fact that there was water damage or a roof that needs to be brand new and redone could be instances where a deal could fall apart. So you satisfy these contingencies, whether it's the home inspection or the appraisal, which oftentimes the bank will require in order to process that loan. They want to know that they're loaning you money for something that's actually worth that loan amount. So
Right.
they're not going to get burned because it's a business for them. You have to proceed through all of these parts of this transaction before the closing table, and each one has a deadline.
Okay. And as the real estate agent, are you the one that's responsible for reaching out to those appraisers or people to satisfy those, or is it the seller's deed to reach out to somebody to come check?
Really good question. So the agent in whole is really there to represent the buyer. So my job to you would be to make sure that we're hitting these deadlines and to make sure that I'm providing the resources to do so. So I might give you a list. I really like this guy, Mark Henry, with his inspection company. And that's an actual person. I couldn't remember his company, but there's so many of them out there, right?
Yeah.
And I might give you these names, and it's up to you on who you want to use. I can't dictate that, but
Okay.
oftentimes the buyer or the seller will just go with what the agent says because we're professionals in the space. So I'm going to provide you all of my resources. I've got a guy for everything you could think of. I got a guy, or I can find a guy if I don't. So I'm going to give you those names, and then it'll be your responsibility to schedule them and pay for them and so on. If you waive, we're getting really in depth, but if you waive appraisal or something like that, the bank, it's all third party, so you don't get to choose your appraiser. And that's done so on purpose because of the 2008 collapse. That was all due to appraisers being buddy-buddy and kind of networking and giving people falsified values, and they thought they had all this equity in their house when they really didn't. So now the laws have changed. Appraisers kind of took the whip on the back with that. It's all third party, so you don't get to pick your appraiser and you don't get to pick their price. You just got to pony up.